everyone. So thank you for joining us again. And Fyzee, let's talk about living with parents.
Yeah.
So how is your experience?
The experience is filled with mental health issues. No, look, I think living with parents
Hold on, are you paying rent?
No, not yet, but I do contribute through family bills and stuff. It's interesting because paying rent is not part of, I guess, the immigrant experience, especially if you're from like South Asia. When I came here first and I heard of the whole concept, I found it so weird. The fact that you pay rent to your parents. We don't really do that. We obviously we help our family with everything.
Just to go back a little bit. So pretty much, you came to Australia with mum and dad, yeah?
Correct.
So you came here, you were little, and then so far you've been living with them as a family unit.
Yes, that's right. We're still together. We are the five of us. So two of my siblings, two sisters, myself, and my two parents. And yeah, we don't pay rent, but we do obviously contribute through bills and whatnot. And obviously there are some issues with, living with parents. Obviously the privacy issue, everybody kind of knows each other's business. Luckily now that we've got our new house, we can sort of have our own space, our own rooms. But previously, because we were renting, we basically did not have any sort of privacy, and there were issues there as well. And obviously, as you said,
you had to follow all the rules.
Yeah, all the rules, right? So yeah, that's what it is. But I think it has obviously positives and negatives. One being that it hopefully brings you together as a family, and it saves you on costs as well, because obviously you're not paying rent. So you do get to buff up your savings too. But then the downsides are, as we kind of talked about previously, no privacy, kind of mental health issues. You're not paying rent, but you are paying through your mental health, which is what I heard somewhere.
I was going to say, I reckon it's more common, especially with us when we migrate our parents, and then we're lucky to have them here, that we live with them. And then for a bit of a look, we know there's a cost of living crisis right now that's affecting a lot of Australians, but then we see that the concept of generational households, like many generations living together, in this case your parents, the siblings, and pretty much that's more common, I reckon, with immigrants than anything else.
Yeah,
because then I remember a lot of friends, especially in the early 20s, they were living by themselves. I don't know how.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, it's very tough because obviously when your friends and stuff would have been overseas, they're in the community, so it's much easier for them to get help and just be around, their people. So when they come here alone, they've lost that contact, they've lost that sort of community touch. So it's even tough to sort of navigate everything, But yeah, more respect to them if they come out stronger if they do it. But with yourself, are you living with your parents? When did you move out, or what's your current situation?
Look, if I do the numbers, pretty much I was living with my parents until I was probably 26. Then I moved out probably like a year, but this was like a shared household in the West. And then the independence is awesome, and then you see your parents every now and then, so you don't suffer the trauma pretty much of living with them, all the mental health.
Yeah, and do you reckon it's a good balance what you did, or?
No, it was a good balance, but then I had to go back. I couldn't afford it, to be honest.
Right.
And we're talking about finish uni, so degree done and dusted, then find a job in the IT sector. That's pretty much what I do, and I couldn't pay the bills because it was an entry level job. So it was hard. It was tough. We're talking that we used to start getting used to, and then you live pretty much from tuna cans and then sandwiches. That happens for a bit. Then you start used to your bills and pretty much do a bit of a budget, and then things get better. But it doesn't compare with living with parents and then having like homemade meals and having the time to do that.
It's the best. Yeah, it is so valuable. You only realize that once you move out. I think I've got to experience that one day, like leaving home and being a bit more independent. I have lived alone for about a week or two, and that was a pretty good experience, but I was glad my family came back. I'm from overseas. So yeah, definitely a lot to go there. But I just want to say that I think social media maybe makes you think that if you haven't moved out by X age, you're somehow a failure or something like that. But it's important to note that these are just comments online. Like if you look at the actual stats, things are much more different. So if we have a look, young adults 18 to 29, if you just look at that in Australia, about 50% of them are still living with their parents, right? So that is a huge number. So everybody's not out there killing it as you think. People are definitely staying at home more, I think. And I can see that the figures are actually sort of trending sort of upwards over the last, say, 15 years or so. So obviously, and we can see that because things are getting much more expensive, cost of living is going up. So Yeah, I mean, don't be under pressure to move out.
Say if there's tough times when it comes to paying bills and paying rent and mortgages, and then you're with your family to help them out, I reckon that's the secret to thriving together.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it helps, because then we're talking about, especially if the kids are already late 20s, working, or early 20s, and then finding good jobs, you can help. Like what you're doing right now in civilians, like that's awesome. Because then you guys were lucky that you were renting first and then saving enough money and then pretty much bought a house, and now you guys are helping each other out, like in that mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. And the bills and everything. But we did get a bit lucky as well, for sure. There's a lot of luck involved. I don't want to pretend like everybody can sort of do that. But also the other thing I wanted to mention too is the average age when it comes to leaving your house and moving out is 24 for males and 23 for females, which is pretty interesting because at the moment I'm 24, and I think there is probably a lot of pressure. Like I know a lot of people that have probably moved out as well in my sort of, I guess, what I see on social media, and it can be very easy for you to feel like you're behind and you're not doing as you're supposed to do, but it's just important to note that it's all online. There's no sort of benchmark. You need to do what's best for you, not what society is telling you is best for you. So just want to put it out there. But I think we want to go through some other stuff as well with our other agenda of
so pretty much continuing with the same topic, like cost of living. Like everyone knows that inflation is going crazy and everything's more expensive. Of course. That is a huge problem. So if you're able to, if your parents are around and then you're able to live with them and save a bit of money, take advantage of that. To be honest, that'll be the first thing to do. And then if they're not around, that means that you're probably in a shared household, and then it becomes harder. As long as you got a good group of friends and then you help each other out, that always comes out. We will come out on top pretty much, especially supporting each other. And then keep in mind that the rental crisis, we know rents are going nuts. That is, it's just too much. Because I think last year you could find like a 1-bedroom share house, whatever, probably like 200, 250, $300, and then now that's going like 400, 500.
Yeah,
which is just insane. Yeah. Because then not a lot of people will be able to can support that. That's the thing. And look, one of the major things that has happened in especially in Australia is wages being stagnant. Because then the last stats when it comes to wages in the last decade, pretty much they went up by 25%. So you might think, okay, so $100 went up to $125. But then if you look at buying, let's say, beef from the supermarket, that went up 70%.
70% on beef.
So if you spend $100 10 years ago, now you're paying $170.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Over the 10 years. So, all right. Still a lot. So
over the 10 years, you won't feel it as much because it's 10 years, but you can see it.
That's like stock market returns, mate. Should have bought a beef ETF or something, eh? That is pretty, I would have not have guessed that. But the thing is, I mean, we eat beef as well, but I've never noticed the price increase that much. I guess that's what inflation kind of does. You don't really feel it. It's gradual, right?
I remember buying chicken. It was like $8 a kilo, and then suddenly went up to 16, and now it's gone down to like 10, 12. And I'm like, okay, it's going down, so things are getting better, but it's not that much.
Yeah. I think with staples like these, you kind of have to buy it. I guess you can skip it, but I think people just don't really pay too much attention to it, I suppose. Yeah,
but look, it's part of the cost of living crisis that we're going through, rental crisis and all of that. Look, everyone's blaming inflation, that it's causing issues. I reckon it's greed, because then all I see, especially if you're invested, and then I read in all the financial reports from the big businesses, especially Woolies and Coles, they're making money.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
They don't know what inflation is. They're making bank. And then we have to pay for it. That's
exactly. And the good thing is population is going to increase, and it's a business that's going to literally keep printing money forever. I mean, as long as they keep doing what they're doing, right?
Well, linking to that pretty much population increase topic, this was on the news a couple of days ago, and then we're about to hit a migration record. So expectations is that 400,000 new migrants come into Australia.
400,000 of people like us, mate.
Yes.
Are they mostly students?
Unfortunately, it doesn't say the country, but I think last time we had a chat in a podcast about this, that the main ones were from Southeast Asia. That's the major shift when it comes to migration. And yes, so most of them are expected to be on student visas. So these are pretty much new students that probably have never been in Australia or a different country before, and then they come in here to improve their life, get better education compared to where they are right now, and trying to see if they're either going to stay or go back. Yeah. And look, being a student in Australia, it's a bit funny because then the government and universities see you as a money-making machine.
100%. You're paying like 3x the price.
Yes,
you're the ideal customer.
3 times what a local will pay for the courses, right? And pretty much, this is the thing I reckon, because I've experienced this when I was at uni, and I don't know if you saw this too. When you see fresh students that just starting the semester, and for group assignments, sometimes when they're fresh, when it comes to English, because they're getting used to their Australian accent and the way they do things, and because they're shy, because you're new to the country, you don't know how to make friends and that sort of stuff, especially when you're young. Because we're talking about you just turn 18 or early 20s, and you might not speak English fully. So I can see that you can call it a bit of discrimination, that they don't want, like, locals don't want to be around them. I saw that a lot, especially for group assignments.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
I
really,
see that as well.
really sad, but it happens a lot. That's what I've noticed. And then you see a lot of locals complaining that, oh, how come this guy's doing a university course? He doesn't even speak English. He can't even write an essay, that sort of stuff. But then these are things you learn to go through, because then he's going to fail the subject, worst case, if he's not doing his best. But then you can think about a lot of subjects that you don't need to write or speak a lot, especially when it comes to doing math, science, and tech.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about completing the assignments and then passing.
Yeah, but I do get the locals' point as well. Like, just having that basic communication is pretty important. But I can see their point of view, because I was in one of the courses which had a group assignment. I was paired up with, I think, probably 2 or 3 internationals, and I basically got no communication with them until the last day they messaged. And it was a bit, surely they could have communicated throughout the assignment.
So it's a bit of assignment last minute, just didn't tell you.
Yeah, could be that. And just lack of communication, which I think I understand the locals in that point. Obviously, you don't have to be racist or, completely tell them to go away. But yeah, I think basic communication is important, but also you've got to be accepting on the other side too, that they've just come from a completely new place. They've got to adjust.
Then I will say, if we take the point aside that they're new to the country, they're immigrants, I reckon that's personal more than anything else, that unfortunately they're not nice people in the first place if they're doing that. Because then I get the point that they might not speak perfect English, but you can at least send a message, hey, sorry, I'm stuck with this. Or say, look, sorry, we're late. We don't have time for this. Like,
yeah, basic communication. Yeah, exactly.
And then I don't think that's down to speaking English properly. That's down to, at a personal level, you being nice to someone.
Yeah. But I think that is the reality. It doesn't matter which uni you go to. If you're in Sydney, you have to just learn to adapt and just deal with it. And I think universities kind of know that as well. They have different processes for when group members don't do their part. So there's things that are happening as well. So you're not disadvantaged if you're doing your bit. So
I remember losing count the times I've sent emails to tutors and pretty much the professors running the courses telling them, hey, look, this guy joined the group and then he hasn't talked to me in 3 weeks. So what do you want me to do?
Exactly.
And then that was awkward pretty much because
you're dobbing on them or you're kind of telling on them. But
then what can you do? Like, you try
exactly, it's necessary.
And then the other thing is that tutor or professor trying to, hey, do you want to be in this course? What's your problem? But that's something that they have to deal with, not us, because we're just finishing the course and then completing the assignments. Yeah. And then look, on top of this influx of migrants coming to Australia, the other thing that's a bit of a fire that's happening is housing. Because then it seems that everyone started blaming immigration on the housing issues that we have, especially in Sydney. And then the funny thing is, these guys, most of them, they're not rich. It's not like they come here and then just have rich parents be like, oh yeah, look, we'll buy you a $2 million house so you can live close to university. That doesn't happen.
No.
Because then these guys are pretty much working class, middle class, that were able to save money, and then their parents told them, look, you need a better future, so you're going to send you to Australia, so you're going to study there.
Exactly.
That's most of them. And then when they come here, either they have to find a part-time job or figure out a way to make money so they can either send money back home to pay bills and help out, and plus trying to figure out how to live here. So that's a thing that's very hard and difficult. And then most of them, they're going to be renting apartments. They're not going to be buying anything. But that's another thing that we have to be aware of.
Like, these are the people that are not going to be competing for your $800 a week apartment. They're going to be living, an hour out from where they work. They're going to be renting in the suburbs that the people that are complaining about will never even think about living in. So I think some of these comments probably need to calm down a bit. Like, everything is competitive, but I don't think these guys are competing for what, they think they are. So
yeah, especially when it's housing, because then they're not first home buyers. They can't get any grants. They can't get any assistance. So they keep that in mind. A lot of these people are just in share houses until they can figure out what to do after. Because once you finish the course, if you get lucky, you can apply to another visa, which is the temporary working visa. And then that's like a year or two. And if you get lucky, you can find a job. And if you even get more luck that you got enough experience and you pass all the English tests for IELTS and all that, then you can start looking into, okay, maybe I can get like a skilled migrant visa to stay and then keep working. But then you gotta be good at what you do to reach that stage. So that's another thing that you could say, because when it comes to immigration, there's many ways to stay in the country, but there's too many ways to fail. That's another thing, because it's very difficult to stay. And like, it's an expensive country to live in.
Well, yeah, especially Sydney, I think is one of the worst cities in terms of affordability and everything else. So,
and look, when it comes to Australia, we have a history of migration, and keep in mind, like 50% of people in Australia were born overseas or have a parent that was born overseas.
Yeah, which upsets a lot of people online, but it is what it is.
They don't want to accept the immigrants.
They don't like the Australian way of life, mate. Yeah, the values are being ruined. But on that note, like, I guess we're talking about immigration. I saw a lot of angry comments online from these types of people that are just very mad.
What do they call it? I'm trying to remember the word. What do you call it? Xenophobia? Is that what it is?
Xenophobia. Yeah, xenophobes, and just basically explain what that means.
So pretty much xenophobia. So that's it's a phobia. It's a fear. In this case, fear of immigrants.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Correct. Yeah, you don't like foreigners. You don't like immigrants coming in,
and you blame them for everything.
Yeah, basically.
You can see those memes. They took our jobs.
Well, I'll read these comments out. Some of them are like that. So, someone said, "Enjoy your new Uber Eats drivers." Pretty racist. Someone is saying, "It's a trap to keep everyone broke," bringing all these immigrants in, which is just funny. It's all a conspiracy, I
was gonna say, the Uber Eats comment. It's discrimination, but then a lot of my friends, when they started like looking for jobs, that's what they did.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's the thing.
The thing is, they'll make fun.
Personally, I did that as well for like a bit, because then look, it's an easy way to make money. There's no fuss, and pretty much you just get like an ABN or just get a personal ABN, and then you start going through there, and that's it. You start working on it, and then when you can't find a proper job, like a coffee shop or like a restaurant, like an easy no skills job that pays minimum wage, you have to pay bills, so you gotta do something.
Exactly. And people like this will make fun of Uber Eats drivers, but then they will literally use their service, right? So you're making fun of them, but then you're also the one that's actually taking the service on, which is just, I just find that ridiculous. But somebody saying that they wish that people listened to Pauline Hanson all those years ago when she said that there should be a cap on immigration. This one got 269 likes on the comment. So there's a lot of people, man, that actually agree with this type of sentiment. Or I guess maybe social media just brings that out.
For the people that are new to the country, do you want to describe who Pauline Hanson is?
Basically, Pauline Hanson is...
She's from, what's the political party?
One Nation in Queensland. And she's been a big supporter of curbing migration. And I think she's placed a lot of blame on immigrants throughout the years. I think firstly it was the Asians or the Chinese.
Right-wing populist?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think the fact that she's from Queensland really fits with that type of sentiment. And I think she does have a decent amount of support, which is interesting. But yeah, she's
what are you trying to say about Queensland? You're going to get us cancelled.
Yeah, but that's hilarious. So some people are saying online that Australian families will become homeless. It's already hard enough trying to find a place to live. 160 likes, which I think is a valid point. I think homeless is a bit exaggerated, but it's going to be...
There's a lot of issues when it comes to housing, but then there's no point blaming immigrants for it because they didn't cause it. It's the government. But it seems
100% root cause is the government.
Yeah, and it seems that the scapegoat or the people that get the blame is immigrants. That's what it is.
Yeah, just an easy target. They're helpless. They're new to the country. Easy blame. Someone else said, "We can't even house who we have. We don't have enough jobs and no one's willing to give us experience. More people, more problems we can't afford." some truth in there, but I think jobs are plentiful. I think in your industry, there's like a genuine shortage. I've been speaking to business owners as part of my job, and they literally cannot hire workers. So there's a genuine shortage going on. So we literally need immigrants coming in to fuel those industries. So I think that's not a lot of truth there.
I'll jump in. So pretty much, there's something that it seems Immigration Australia is based. You get immigrants here to do low skill pay jobs. That means cleaners. That means you're working on like from cleaning toilets, unfortunately, like those sort of jobs, to cleaning houses, to cleaning pretty much restaurants, like businesses, sort of stuff. And these are working in construction or late at night. That sort of, so all of the jobs that you don't really want to do unless you're forced to, because that's your last resort. And they're doing it because technically
somebody has to.
And someone will be desperate enough to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad, but then it's reality of these sort of jobs.
Yeah.
Especially if they're graveyard shift hours, and then you can't sleep because you're working until 4 a.m. in the morning, and then you have another shift in a couple of hours, so you got to go to class, that sort of stuff. Because then I met a lot of people that were doing that, especially when I was at uni, and then mainly immigrants. They were killing themselves trying to make a living, pay bills, and then keep studying. That's the other thing. And keep in mind, they were doing this while trying to keep at the 20-hour limit of working. So that's another thing. They tried to do that with that limit of time, which is just difficult to do.
100%. But I think with all these comments, what I'm getting is the housing part is very important, but the fact that they're talking about jobs, not enough jobs and all that, I think that's not valid at all. There's plenty of jobs out there. And as you said, a lot of immigrants will do work which like Aussies living here will simply not do, or they'll do it if it's the absolute last resort. So I think, just as you said, a bit of xenophobia type sentiment there.
And I will say, let's probably make it clear, because then these people migrate to Australia trying to, especially doing bachelor's degree, doing masters. Yes, they're trying to get a job in the degree that they're doing or whatever, but then these guys are highly skilled. Like the engineers with years of experience, or students that are trying to do an engineering degree, and they're being pushed into STEM. I will say that's another funny thing when it comes to us. We got pushed into do either science, technology, or engineering or medicine. And then you get the jokes about, especially with my Asian friends, the parents just tell them, why are you not a doctor yet?
Yeah.
Straight off.
Exactly.
The tiger mum sort of thing, and then being pushed into high stress, high reward sort of jobs. And then there's a lot of competition in those jobs, yes, but there's not a lot of people doing that.
Yeah, which is why you need people coming in to actually fill the gaps. Because
in my industry, tech, there's a huge deficit of like people working in it. We're talking about engineers, and then pretty much cloud engineers or systems engineers, the sort of roles that you need to know what you're doing to go forward. And pretty much there's not enough people coming in. And I could say, especially in my industry, a lot of the people working there, they're immigrants. So that's an interesting shift as well that I can say. And it's a good shift, I will say, because then you get a lot of diversity on the way people think, the experience, and people that you find, and then that sort of stuff. Because then a lot of the colleagues and friends that I've made in the industry, they're pretty much from Philippines, India, China, like diverse backgrounds. Yeah. And pretty much some of them came here as students, and they got lucky, and then they were able to stay. And they proved themselves because the employers back then gave them you're a good employee, so I'm going to give you a working visa, stay with us. And other ones got lucky that they were able to apply for skill migration visas. So that means that they had to have the right skill set and experience to be able to even apply.
Yeah, so they're not just some random people that's going to work a job that these Aussies think that they're going to get replaced or whatever. Like, I mean, the other thing as well, people need to realize that Australia needs to, we need our IT sector and tech sector, and a lot of these sectors which are really pioneering, like the next level of technology, we need to be industry leading, and we need the best people there. And the fact that we've got a shortage simply means that we need to, recruit the best people so they can come. People that you mentioned from these types of countries, they're very hardworking, motivated, and they're willing to put in the work and make really cool stuff, right? So we need people so Australia as a whole can actually be better, right? I think that should be our main goal. And I think with arguments like these, I think people just lose sight of what's important. We need to advance Australia, and the way to do that is by bringing in people that are actually motivated so we can actually get there, I think people just lose that. if we just
right.
and people just sort of fight between themselves and focus on the wrong things, which is a bit sad.
All right. Do you have any ending notes?
No, look, I think that was good. I had a lot of fun reading out these mean comments, and I think I'll keep doing this because it is just so funny.
You're going to bring it in every episode? You're going to find some random TikTok video and then in the comments?
I actually will. It's so funny. But yeah, the fact that it's got so much support, which is the alarming thing to me. But I think social media kind of does that. It just brings out the extreme side. So
what do they call it? It's like a silo. People just stuck in the same way of thinking and just doing hate comments. That's what it is.
Yeah, no sort of critical thinking on their own. But look, that is all that I wanted to say. I think living with parents is a huge part of our culture and obviously has pros and cons. And the fact that the job situation we looked at, as well as housing, 2 very important issues. Not much more that I have. Anything from your end?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for listening. Do follow us on our Patreon, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for listening to our episode.
If you're new to Australia, please reach out.
We wanted to build a community of immigrants that help each other.
If any part of this podcast resonated with you, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us a lot.
Lastly, follow us on our Patreon for exclusive content, socials, and share us with your friends and family.